So to all the Patreon members, I want to thank you guys for your support. It really means a lot to me, all the subscribers, all the new viewers. If you could do me a favor, please like, share this video. Check out the links in the description box below. If you want to join the Facebook group, link is in the description box below. If you want to join the Patreon page, link is in the description box below. I actually posted up 3 new videos on the Patreon page last night, so go check that out. Anyways, let's get into today's topic. It's called Why Do Couples Seem to Break Up After Their Baby is Born? I misspelled seem, so I'm going to change that and edit that after this video. I apologize. I was typing real fast. It's a typo. But, damn, they all outside my door with the leaf blower. Anyways, why do couples seem to break up after their baby is born? So we have rapper Cordae on the left and tennis player Naomi Osaka on the right. I don't know what she's been up to in the tennis world ever since she got pregnant and had a child. I haven't really heard her do that many great things within the world of tennis. Coco Gauff pretty much took over her spot. So to Sam Combo. All right, Sam Combo in the building. Guys, check out the last, 3 live streams we did on this platform with Sam. And I interviewed Sam talking about Sweden, the Dominican Republic, and Portugal. Great interviews, great insight, great information. So check that out. Anyways, we have rapper Cordae on the left, Naomi Osaka on the right, tennis player. At one point in time, they were dating. They never got married. She got pregnant, had a baby, and she announced today that they were broken up. Now, I could have sworn they announced like 2 years ago that they had broken up. They probably got back together or whatever. But there was like another official statement that she put out today. And let me read it. She said, "Hi, everyone." This was on her Instagram. "Just wanted to say that Cordae and I are no longer in a relationship. No bad blood at all. He's a great person and an awesome dad. Honestly, really glad our paths crossed because my daughter is my biggest blessing and I was able to grow a lot from our experiences together." Okay, well, if he's such a great dad, why don't y'all raise, your child together, right? Now, I don't know who's at fault here. I'm not doing the blame game. Maybe they just outgrew each other. They weren't married, so he's not really obligated to really owe you anything besides child support. He doesn't owe you any resources, right? Because you didn't require marriage in order to have a child by you, all right? But nonetheless, I'm not here to play blame game. It's just we see these breakups all the time when the children are very young. Remember like last year or 2 years ago, Young Jeezy was in the media. I remember watching the lead attorney on YouTube and him breaking down, the paperwork in their divorce and, how it was getting ugly. The baby's barely even old enough to talk. All right. So why does it seem that couples break up right after the baby is born? The reason why, and I'm not here to put this on all women, and it has nothing to do with race. All right. This is modern women. And it's not just here in America. This is an issue all over the world. Amongst modern women today, a lot of modern women, not all modern women, but a lot of modern women today, modern women want their children to have an affinity for them. The man today is just a baby maker. All right. The man is the baby maker. The woman wants the child to have an affinity for her. The child is pretty much their free nurse's aid. A lot of these women, they like having children the old-fashioned way, but if it was free to get sperm out of a fertility clinic, and if men, were running to a fertility clinic, giving sperm samples in a cup to these fertility clinics, and it was fairly cheap to get pregnant, at these fertility clinics, to have a baby without a man at these clinics, women, there'll be a cheese line around the block every single day at these fertility clinics. A lot of women today, you know, a lot of modern women today, you know, the ego is through the roof. It's like, hey, I don't want a man. I don't really need a man. I'm strong, independent. I don't need a man. You know, it's cool to have a man every once in a while for sex, but I really don't need him. I don't really see the value in a man today. You've heard this come out of women's mouths uh, in person, in public, on social media, movies. That's the culture today. Women don't want their children's earliest memories to be their parents together in a household raising them. All right. If you could think back at your earliest memory, right? Think back at your earliest memory. You could probably go as far back as maybe 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. My earliest memories is when I was 5 years old. I don't really remember too much before that. All right. I remember the house we were living in, my mother and father together. They're still together to this day. I remember when my brother was born. I remember when my mother was pregnant. So as early as like 4 or 5 years old, those are my earliest memories. Anything before that, I don't really remember. A lot of women, a lot of modern women, they want their children's earliest memories to not to be a two-parent household, you know, both parents in the same household raising them, right? They want the parent separation or the family separation. They want that to be normalized as their earliest memories, because when a child is like 8 or 9 years old and the parents split, if you've ever listened to child psychologists or child counselors across the country, they'll tell you in cases like these where the children, their brain is still developing, they're very young, and their family is going through a divorce or a breakup, the children tend to blame themselves for their parents splitting up, right? So when you have a child that young of an age who blame themselves for their parents breaking up, they tend to choose a side, or their mood and their attitude change. I don't really like to use the term attitude, but you know, their personality changes. You know, their parents, well, excuse me, their teachers call the parents and say, hey, you know, is everything okay? Your son or your daughter, they don't seem to be, you know, playful like they used to. Doesn't really want to get involved with any activities at school. Doesn't raise his or her hand anymore. Doesn't want to play with any of the kids during recess. He or she just sits in the corner, and you know, he or she just been crying all day. Is everything okay at the household? Hey, we're just going through divorce, so we're going through a breakup. His father moved out, or the court ordered the father to get out of the house last week or whatever. So he or she has been going through a lot. So when counselors have openly admitted that kids tend to blame themselves in a breakup or divorce, you know, their mindset, having that mindset, you know, they can conjure up other thoughts as well that could, you know, it could lead to a lot of stress for a child, and into other thought processes as well, other thoughts as well. As kids get older, like, you know, when the family breaks up in middle school or high school, I've been listening to the YouTube channel Tony's Cheating Stories. That's a great YouTube channel. It's basically nothing but men who write about how they got a divorce from their wives because they caught her cheating. Right? It's a bunch of divorced men who caught their wives cheating, and they kind of go into details as to how they caught the ex-wives cheating. And they talk about how hard it is on the kids when they're in middle school, when they're in high school, and how, you know, the older they get, you know, they start to act out at school. They start to skip classes. They're no longer interested in the in-school after-school activities anymore because of a split. You know, They're getting written up. They're going to the principal's office. They're getting into fights. They're getting suspended, expelled because of the breakup or because of the divorce. Especially, and I'm not saying that all cases of divorce are because women cheat. But I am here to say that there's a lot of no-fault divorces out there, and about what's the percentage? Like 80% of divorces is just irreconcilable differences coming from the women. No abuse, no cheating. It's irreconcilable differences filed by the women. It's just, hey, you know what? I don't really want to do this no more. So kids at a certain age, they either tend to come down on themselves, they get very depressed, they have to seek counseling and a therapist, and they tend to pick a side, especially on Tony's Cheating Stories, the YouTube channel. When the man hires a private investigator and catches their wives cheating, and that's grounds for divorce, and the children find out about it, most of these stories that I heard, the children, they tend to want to stay with the father. They don't really want to have anything to do with the mother for a while, right? It's like it takes time. Every story that I hear is like, hey, right now the kids don't want to see their mother. They don't want to be around their mother. They're disgusted with their mother. So to prevent that, right, a lot of modern women, not all women, but a lot of modern women, they like to normalize co-parenting when their kids are at a very young age. So their earliest memory is just the mother and the mother co-parenting with the father. All right. The mother taking their kids out of the state where they met the father and they move someplace else, so that it's very difficult for the father to actually see his kids. And the mother's collecting child support. The father is just a FaceTime call. The father is just a phone call, right? The father is not really able, especially depending on what his financial status is, the father is not really able to see his kids as often as he would like. These are fathers where the mother took the kids out the state. It's still difficult even when the children are in the same city, right? They set it up where, like, hey, we take this percentage out of your check, and your visitation rights, you only get weekends or whatever. So it's like you're only in the child's life, like what? 10% of their life, right? Then as the kids get older, they have an estranged relationship with the father. They feel like, man, he could have done more. He could have done this. He could have done that. He could have done this. But they don't really come down too hard on the mother. It's like your mother didn't really facilitate a relationship between, you and your father. Your mother, first thing she did when she broke up with your father was she moved out of state, or she moved out the city, or she limited the amount of time that your father could see you, right? Even days when you were able, when the father was supposed to have you, your mother pulled a slick move, and this man had to go back to court to fight for his rights. Like, hey, don't I have the right to see my kids on certain days? There's a lot of fathers going through that. So men have a very difficult time raising modern women's children today, because you're looked at as soft if you want marriage. And it's like they go through with it, but they kind of look at it like, well, this is an opportunity to get even more resources out of him so that it further helps me raise this child by myself. And all I got to do is wait 2 years, 3 years. Cool. That's before the child, their earliest memories kick in. When your earliest memories is your mother and your father separated, you don't really feel a certain kind of way seeing your father every once in a while. It's like you don't have to seek counseling for that. That's just normal to you. unfortunately, hey, you know what? I don't even want to add race into it. I said I wasn't going to add race into it. I was going to throw some stats out there, but it's just a modern women thing, right? You step out here in the dating market, it's a lot of single mothers out here. And all that does is it shows that you're not really loyal, right? You didn't really go through your father to, pick a good man for you. You picked on your own. You tend to pick F boys, the same F boys that you complain about. This is who you pick to procreate because they don't really have an F boy, don't really have that much of a fight to put up with in court. You're gonna have full custody. It's easy. This is the same method that you see in Canada. I've been saying this for years that the culture in Canada is really making its way in America, like where there's really no difference. Because when I first went to Canada in 2009, this was blatant up there, and now it's made its way down here in America. Would Naomi do this if she lived in Japan? Well, Naomi is biracial. So if you look at that model, Ariana Miyamoto, she's doing the same thing. She had 2 kids. I don't know how many. I don't know if it's 1 baby daddy or 2. But all she shows is just her and her kids on her Instagram page, right? No father. She's not married. So technically she's a single mother. So if she was full Japanese, would she do this? Maybe not. I don't know. There's still a lot of single women over in Japan. Japan has changed a lot, right? It has a negative birth rate. Why? Because people aren't really procreating like that. People aren't really getting married like that. But it's still a much higher marriage percentage than over here in America, even though they have a negative birth rate. Now, her being biracial, would she do that over in Japan? I think so. Look at Ariana Miyamoto. I don't like to play the hypothetical game, but that's neither here nor there. What we're seeing right now, there's a lot of couples out there that break up when the kids barely talk, right? It's if all you know is mama, if everything that's been provided for you came from mama, and yeah, when you listening to a lot of these interviews of some of these entertainers that grow up without their dad in the household, what do they always say? Yeah, I knew my dad. He was around, but he was around. I give him credit. He was around, or either they never knew their father, or he was just around. But when you think of everything that's been given to you as a child, you think of mama. So you have an affinity for your mother. And when you have an affinity for your mother, you are programmed at an early age to be pretty much a free nurse's aide for your mother. Even though once you get older, you kind of realize like, damn, I didn't realize the full truth about mama until, I was in my 30s or I was in my 40s or my dad. I think I talked about this on Patreon. All right. My dad, up until his 70s, right, has never really had anything positive to say about his dad. But I'm like, man, when you think about it, your dad was a solid man. Your dad had his own farm, living off the fat of the land, right? He took your mother in the 40s when she already had 2 kids by another man. So that's looked at as nothing today. But man, I was highly looked down upon back in the 40s. He took in a woman with 2 kids already from a different man, had 3 more kids with her, raised you and all your siblings, even the ones that he's not related to, took care of everybody. And because my dad's mom's sisters was in her ear, like, girl, what the hell you doing down there on a farm? Man, come up here to New York. Like, they giving out benefits and apartments out here for single mothers. Leave him and come, live in an apartment. They giving out free money out here. My grandma's sisters got in her ear, and these apartments, they were the projects. All right. They struggled. I mean, their situation was even worse than working on that farm. And, you know, a lot of times people, they talk about the separation of family in the 60s. Nah, really it started in the 40s and 50s. All right. And right when my dad was born, she left his dad. So he really has no memories of his father besides him being able to visit. Like, I think he only met him like twice. But see, the thing is, you know, today we have all this technology to stay in touch. Back then, to travel, that was expensive. And to make like a long distance call, because you know, my father's side of the family, they from South Carolina. So a long distance call was calling from one state to another. It's not like today where you can just make free calls, you know, all throughout America and Canada. No, those were long distance calls. That motherfucker, like, your bill was high as hell if you made a phone call from across the country back then. Your mother took you and your brothers and sisters away from me out of state, right? There were no iPads back then, or emails, or computers back then. It was letters, right? And phone calls were very expensive. So this shit started a long time ago. Now, being transparent right now, right? But my dad had no early memories of his father, only when he met him twice. And he would, all throughout my life, he would talk down on him like, oh man, I don't really care for him. I don't care for him. I'm like, no, it was your mother who took you away from your father's love. I told him that to his face. He had nothing to say after that, because it's like, wow, like, you know, he's right. And it's like, damn, I can't believe my own son had to like make me realize that. You know what I'm saying? So look, man, like it's very detrimental when you separate, when you take a man's kids from him. And women, they know this, right? You are just a baby maker. Now, I'm saying all this aside from Corday and Naomi Osaka. I don't know this situation. I just kind of use this as a thumbnail. I'm not talking about them. I don't know what their situation is. This is just a common occurrence. I mean, you can plug any public relationship or any private relationship, you know, in your personal life right here on this thumbnail, right? Unfortunately, the base of every thriving economic community is family. And women, they've opted out of that. They don't give a damn about a thriving economic community. They just like, man, fuck all that. Like, I already got my needs and my wants met. You know, give me my kid and go. Right. So, and some people, they kind of know that, right? It's really a 93% chance that when you have a child, especially in your own community, that the woman is just going to take the kid and leave. Remember, 7% of Black marriages don't even last 5 years or more than 5 years. Those are marriages, and only 1 in 4 Black women will ever get married. 80 to 85%, right, of these households is single, is single mothers, right? That's insane. So it's, you know, the community, quote unquote, it's just women and kids. So why would I, if women have it in their minds to use somebody as a baby maker, get their kids and leave, right? Don't really stay at least until the kid graduates and they're out the house, right? It's like, why would I want to leave when my child is 7 years old or older, right? And then they kind of pick a side. Like, mommy, why are you doing this? No, I don't want to live with you. I want to tell the judge I want to live with dad. Damn that. Like, what are you doing? You know, I've never seen dad hit you or be with another woman. If that's not the case, then why are you doing this? So before a child is old enough to be able to say that or to think that way about their mother, man, they rather split up the whatever family household there could have been, before at least preschool, before preschool, right? It's a very selfish move, a selfish act to do. It's very, very selfish. And, only a handful of men in a relationship, unfortunately, can sit back and peek that and be like, hey, I can't entertain this, right? Um, I'm gonna take the words of what Dr. Dre said in that Stephen A. Smith interview that they did like a couple months ago. He said, hey man, people tell you who they are. All you got to do is listen and pay attention. They didn't told you who they are. All you got to do is listen. Some of y'all are in a relationship with a woman where it's like they'll say, hey, when you gonna give me a baby? Right? And the verbiage isn't when are we going to start a family? When are we going to, unionize this? Right? When are we going to, get married and start a family? Right? Whatever prenuptial agreement you got, I'll sign that. I don't care because I ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? I'm a solid woman. I'm confident that, hey, look, whatever issues we go through, I'm gonna work with that with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for child support. I'm not in it for none of that. Right? I'm in it. I want to start a family. Right? I know you well enough to where we can make it through a lot of ups and downs. We've had a lot of ups and downs already, and we've gotten it through smoothly. I don't want your money. You can, hey, I'll sign that prenuptial agreement. We need family if we're gonna have a child. You don't hear women saying that shit. It's when you gonna give me a baby, and they tell you that up front. So you done heard them say this, so they already letting you know. I'm ready to like act like I'm gonna raise this kid by myself, but I'm still gonna go after your resources and not try too hard to facilitate a relationship between you and the child and bring whatever bum around your child, right? So it's sad that we living in times right now. That's why a lot of brothers they got their passports and they're traveling. It's just like, hey man, if this is gonna be life, then I might as well take those risks somewhere else where, if a baby comes about this situation, she's more eager to work with me, you know what I'm saying, to try to make this work and to strengthen that bond as much as she can, because it's like, hey, look, we need the father. I need you. You see what I'm saying? So, and hell, sometimes that don't even work. Some guys, they just say, hey man, you know what? I did my level best. I thought I was doing what God wanted me to do. I thought I was doing what nature wanted me to do. And, I became a statistic like a lot of these other men out here. And I don't ever want to go through that again. Right? There's a lot of men, they tried their best and they still have an estranged relationship with their children because of the mother. Right? We're not blaming all women here. There's a lot of terrible fathers out here as well. Right? But at the same time, we all have choices. I'll just say that. So on that note, I'm going to end this live. Please share this video. You guys be safe. I'll see all the Patreon members. I'll see you guys tonight. All right. Link in the description box below. And man, I'm over and I'm out. I hope in the future we can get to a point where we, both men and women, realize that we need each other. You know what I'm saying? I hope we get to a point where we love each other. We realize we need each other. We realize each other's value. And we can flip that number around to where it's 85% of Black people married, raising their kids, like how we once were before. All right. Anyways, I'm over and I'm out. You guys take care. Peace.